Next level. My name is Nicole Lim, the program coordinator for UCL Extension Engineering. This video recording will be available under the video tab in the Canvas website. In the meantime, I'd like to introduce our instructor for today. Dr. Sharon Lam Hartman is the CEO of Inside Out Learning, an award-winning leadership, team, and organizational development consulting company working with Fortune 50 and 100 companies and small to mid-sized businesses. Dr. Lam Hartman leads Inside Out Learning to transform companies, teams, and leaders to achieve exceptional results. Her book, The Authenticity Code, is a bestseller in the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and Amazon, and recently won the Axiom Business Book Awards Gold Medal for Best Business Fable. Take it away, Dr. Sharon.
Thanks so much, Nicole. It's great to be here with everyone today to take your presentations to the next level. This is something I'm so passionate about. And I love starting with this quote. If you don't know what you want to achieve in your presentation, your audience never will. So the key is always knowing what's your goal. What do you want to achieve in your presentation? We all make presentations, whether we're in school as a student, whether we're in the professional workplace, we are all needing to make presentations. It's a skill we all need to have. And as Nicole said, I've written a best-selling book called The Authenticity Code. So we're going to go into one piece of this today, which is your presentation and how to take your presentations to that next level. But please know, if you want to go deeper, check out the book. There's valuable tools and exercises in the book, and highly encourage you to go deeper. So what are we here to do? Well, we're here to learn key presentation tools and techniques that you're going to be able to immediately apply in your workplace or in your classrooms to help you excel as a student, as a leader, as a professional, and to get to yes faster in any presentation, including winning business. So I started today by asking everyone to put a topic of a presentation they want to work on in this class, because you're going to get real work done. And you can be thinking about what type of presentation do you want to work on in this 1 hour that you have. You're going to learn tips that you can apply to an actual presentation. And it will exceptionally help you to exceptionally deliver any presentation that you give. What I'm hoping at the end is that you will learn and apply a proven formula for presentation success that guarantees your presentations will be better than your past best. If you continue to use this, your presentations will be better than your past best. The tools that you learn today, I hope you use them to actually deliver exceptional presentations. Those are my two hopes for today. This is our agenda. We have 1 hour together, and in that hour, we're going to cover a lot. I'm going to share a formula for presentation success that you can use to develop any presentation that you need to give. We're going to talk about tools for that, audience understanding matrix, formula for presentation success, how you grab someone's attention. What do you say up front in terms of an executive summary? What about how do you keep their attention throughout the whole presentation in your agenda and your clear body message? And then how you finish strong. And we're going to close with some next steps that you can continue to develop to elevate your presentations. So there is a digital workbook for this. Now, I know some of you might not be in a place where you can download it right now, and that's okay. But if you are in a place that you can download it, Jen, our fabulous tech moderator today from our team, is going to put the link for the workbook in the chat. So you want to click on that link and you can download it. It's a digital workbook. You can continue to use it. If you prefer, you can also print it out at some time. But this is we can't share all of the slides with you, but we are sharing the key parts that I'm presenting today as in a digital workbook. So highly encourage you to download that workbook. And Jen, you might want to post it again in a few minutes because I know some people are just joining, so they might not see that link. And continue to also think about, if you're just joining, what's a presentation that you want to work on during this class and you want to get real work done because we're going to help you to do that. So what is the authenticity code? It's actually your presence. So who you are, your character, what you bring, plus your audience, who you're presenting to. How do you tailor to them and help to get to that yes, help to have impactful presentations and meaning. Plus your presentation equals your success. You need all three of these parts, and that's what's in the authenticity code. Today, we are going to go into this formula for presentation success and really dive deep into the presentation part of the authenticity code. Here's the formula. You want to know your audience before you start writing a presentation. So we're going to help you analyze your audience. You want to be able to grab their attention. Really state up front what you're there for and what you want at the end. An agenda, a clear body message, so you don't lose them throughout the presentation. You keep your audience with you, and then you want to finish strong. It's a simple formula. I guarantee if you start applying this, your presentations are going to go to way better than your past best. So let's go into each one of these components of the formula. First is know your audience. You know, I used to start writing a presentation without thinking of my audience, and it was a mistake because then I'm writing it more for me and how I think versus my audience. So now I always start with this simple step, and it doesn't take long. I simply identify the key decision makers. So who matters the most and why? What's the goal of my presentation? Because if you don't know it, your audience won't either. So what do I want to achieve in my presentation? That's very important to get in touch with. Also, you want to know if there's a hidden agenda. Sometimes you're going to go in and you're going to be asking for money or resources, and someone else in the room also wants that, but you may not know. That's an example of a hidden agenda. So it's always good to kind of know these things before you enter a room. And then you want to prioritize the decision makers. So you really want to know who's the leader, because that's who you're pitching to primarily, and who are the followers. Now, why do you want to know the followers? Because they are often the ones that the leader goes to say, what do you think? If that leader has to walk out of the room during your presentation, they're going to come in and they're going to look to their followers. So it's always good to know who's the leader, who are their key followers. You want to understand their perception. So we have a simple tool that we use in our programs called the Audience Understanding Matrix. And this is on page 6 in that workbook. So Jen is again going to post that workbook link. So if you've just joined, you want to click on that and download the workbook for today. It will also be available on Canva later under the UCLA website Canva. So you can get it from there as well. So what is most important to your audience? That is the first question you want to ask. So here's an example. A typical leader, you might say, what's most important to them? Well, it could be bottom line results. It could be quality and the impact on people. Maybe put some other ideas in for leaders that you know that are in your audience. What's most important to them? Maybe put some ideas in the chat in addition to these two things. And then what hooks them? So what hooks them might be industry standards, like looking to the outside for expertise, maybe knowing results that other competitors are getting by implementing certain things. So that might hook them to listen to you. And then what details do they need? Do they need high level or not a lot of detail, right? High level, or do they need a lot of specificity? And that kind of depends on the leader and how technical they are. But a lot of leaders, they might want more high level and they want to know the impact on people. So this is just a typical leader that we're talking about, but your leader might be different. And then you want to know, what are they willing to compromise? So if you think about, there's cost, there's schedule, there's quality, there's safety. Is there one of those things that's more important to them than another? Because if they're willing to sacrifice cost and schedule in order to have high quality, well, then you know that in your pitch, in your presentation, you will be able to pitch to the value of high quality. It might cost more, it might mean more time, but there might be more likely to say yes, because you know that they care most about quality. So kind of be thinking now about your audience. So I asked everyone at the beginning of this presentation to think about a presentation that you need to give in the near future. And you want to apply this audience understanding matrix to that audience for that presentation that you're thinking about. Many people have put in the chat the presentations they're thinking about. Some are asking for funding on something, on a key topic. Some are designing training programs. Whatever it might be, I want you to think of your core audience and just take a few minutes now to go ahead and write down on page 6, if you're able to look at the workbook, write down the answers to those 4 questions as much as you can in the next couple of minutes. Put down what's most important to your audience. What hooks them? What details do they need? What are they willing to compromise? And you want to be really thinking about the audience you're going to be presenting to in the future on that topic that you're thinking about, and answer those 4 questions to the best of your ability. You may need to go back and do some research to fully answer them, and that's okay. But just answer them to the best of your ability right now. Write down some ideas. You can use that page 6, or if you're not in a place to download the workbook, simply jot down what's important to your audience, or be thinking about it if you're driving. Just think about it. So what's most important to them? What hooks them? What type of detail do they really need? And then what are they willing to compromise? I'll give you a couple minutes to write that down, and feel free to share some ideas in the chat as well, because when people see the chat and see ideas, they get ideas, which is great, which is where we can all collaborate together. So definitely know at any time you can put some ideas in the chat, and also in your workbook, or in your notes, or in your reflection right now. Great, I love seeing some of this. What hooks them? The reach of the publication will increase the viewership of the publication. Details they need, cost, functionality, scalability, integration, and security. See, then it's going to help you to really write that. What hooks them? Connection, identifying themselves with the speaker. This is great because then you can really know how to pull in your audience when you've thought about what hooks them. That is great to know in terms of really pulling in your audience. What's important to them? Feeling respected, valued, and involved in shared decision-making. Also, how it aligns with their strategies and objectives. So see how simple this is to answer 4 quick questions. Now, what if you don't know? What if you really don't know your audience? How would you find out? Any ideas on that you have? Drop it in the chat. How would you find out if you don't know? Research, exactly. research on LinkedIn, call people who know the audience. Maybe you know their inner circle. Maybe you know their executive assistant. Maybe there's that you can reach out to and say, what do you know about this audience? Do as much research as you can prior to writing the presentation so that you can put yourself in your audience's shoes. Love that ChatGPT 5 research. We actually are going to share how you can use AI today in writing your presentations. So that is an excellent idea also, is research on AI about your audience. You could ask them directly. Absolutely, you can ask them directly. So really be thinking about, how can I find this out? And you know, it's very important that you put yourself in your audience's shoes before you actually start writing that presentation. Because let's say they just want high level and you are giving excruciating detail. Then that's not going to be a successful presentation. So what's next? After you know your audience, and there's more tools in the book as well on how you can really assess your audience. The next part of that formula for presentation success is the attention-getting opening. So the attention-getting opening is how you pull in your audience now that you know more about them. Now, why do you think it is important to have an attention-getting opening? And you put in the chat, why is it important to have an attention-getting opening? Any thoughts on that? Keep interest, to hook them in. Yes, to get people to focus on you, to get that connection, first impression, excellent. So we are going from meeting to meeting or thing to thing in our days, class to class. And when we sit down for a presentation, do you think everyone's just focused on you? Not usually. You've got to get them to stop thinking about their to-do list and where they just were or where they're going. So because the average human brain processes 11 billion bits of information per second. So this is something that you really want them to stop thinking and processing and focus on you. That's what an attention-getting opening can do. Now, what can you do for an attention-getting opening? You can state a statistic. You could tell a story. You could use images or a video. You could ask a question. You could quote a quote. There's so many more things too that you could do. Maybe you want to use a prompt. Whatever it is that is going to hook your audience to listen to you. So let me give you a couple examples. Here's stating a statistic. So let's say you're doing a presentation on working capital status, and you could say something like, look, we initially targeted 5 million improvement by the end of 2026. We had 600K captured in the fourth quarter of 2023. Now we have 1.4 million captured in the first half of 2024 with an increased target to 10 million. 4 million target in 2025. So that gives some statistics, some numbers, but it might pull in a financial audience who wants to know about that working capital status. You could also tell a story. You know, Brené Brown says stories are just data with a soul. Remember, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you don't want to tell too long of a story to get the audience's attention. But a nice short one that pulls them in and connects with you is always nice. And I love to have a black blank behind me when I'm telling a story or a title page, because then I know that no one is reading my slide when I'm telling the story. It focuses them on you if you use a black blank. You could use images or a video to pull people in. So here's an example. All right, this was a presentation for a VP client of ours that he was developing as part of our program. And he was asking for funding for a nonprofit from the aerospace company in which he worked. And it was to invest in a nonprofit called Samaritan's Feet. So he used a combination of images and told a story. So he started with 1.5 billion. That's the number of people who get sick due to foot-borne illnesses because they don't have shoes. And when they don't have shoes, they cannot get to the classroom. And then we're missing a significant portion that we want to touch as many students in the classroom in an effort to increase STEM outreach globally. And this was enough for Manny Ownhome to leave corporate America in an executive position and start a nonprofit called Samaritan's Feet to provide students with shoes and give them hope for the future. That is a story with images that can really pull you in. He was asking for funding for Samaritan's Feet. Now you can also ask a question. So you could possibly ask a question like, imagine a typical workday. What's the one thought that you have had that would make our customers more satisfied? Asking a question is another way to pull your audience in. You could quote a quote. Maya Angelou, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." These are simply examples of ways that you can get your audience's attention to focus on you, connect with you, listen to you. I do not recommend, however, telling a joke. It's different than humor, but if you tell a joke, you're more likely to offend, and you do not want to start that in your presentation. I want you to now think about that presentation that you've been thinking you want to develop in the future or you need to develop in the future. And you just assessed your audience. If you have not yet downloaded the workbook, you can click on the link to download this. But even if you are not able to, you can still be reflecting on this question. I want you to think about the topic of the presentation that you need to write in the future. And think about your audience that you just assessed. You answered 4 questions for your audience. And I want you to write down an idea for an attention-getting opening for your presentation. You can write that down on page 9 and just be thinking about that. Do you want a story, an image, a statistic, a question, a quote? What is it that you want to do that might be a good way to really hook your audience in, to get them to listen to you? So go ahead and reflect on that. If you're able to see the worksheet and download it, it's on page 9. If not, maybe you want to write it down on a sheet of paper or type it into your phone, whatever it is that you prefer. And this, there was a question, where can we find the recorded video of this course? It is on Canva, and Nicole can say more about that through UCLA. So the best method to break the ice as you're thinking about what you would do for your presentation and for your audience, it really depends on your audience and your topic. There's no one best way. If I have a technical audience and I know they like numbers, I'm probably going to go with a statistic. If I'm asking for funding, that was very powerful. The attention-getting opening I walked you through, asking for funding through a series of images and helping that audience make a connection to the organization that you're asking for funding for. So maybe that's more about telling a story and using an image. I tend to use images, story, and statistics the most. But today I used a quote because when you don't have a lot of time, you might have to use a quote or something quick just to kind of get people to focus on you. So there's also a consideration of how much time do you have in a presentation. The other day, I started a presentation out with 28,000. And I said, what does that number represent? And it was the number of people in their organization that were waiting back in the workplace, wondering what this leadership team was going to do when they got back. So you really need to consider there's these 5 different ways that we share. what's the best way for your topic? What's the best way for your audience? So I saw that some people were putting their ideas into the chat. Jen's going to launch a poll now, and I'd like you to choose, what did you choose for your audience and for your topic? Did you choose a story, an image, a statistic, a question, a quote? What did you choose? And just answer that if you're able to. Please, if you are not in a place where you're not safe to participate in the poll, don't worry about participating in the poll. But if you are able to, then definitely participate in the poll and go ahead and say what you chose. Story, image, statistic, question, quote. Maybe you did something else too. And if that, put it in the chat. Okay, here's one. I would do a story followed up with a question to really re-hook the listener after the story. That's great too. You know, so often telling a story, the audience sees the connection in you and they're like, oh, now I really want to listen. Then you ask a question. So you don't have to do just one of these. You can do multiple ones as well. So Jen, what do we have as the results for the poll? Great. So we're seeing across the board, right? 31% we're going to tell a story, 14% using an image, 30% a statistic. That's for those good technical audiences or number-oriented audiences. A question, 15%, and a quote, 10%. So this is great. And you just want to really be thinking about how do you really get your audience's attention? So any key insights that you want to share or observations from thinking about how to get your audience's attention? We have a couple of minutes that we can share. If you want to put that in. I did mention it's Samaritan's Feet is the name of the organization. And it's Manny Ownholm who started that. But see, you remembered it. And that's the key to a good attention getting opening, is that you remember it. All right, great. Yes. Asking a question to command their attention. And that's so important too. We are all attached to our phones today, aren't we? So when you're starting a presentation, probably half the audience could be on their phone, unless you ask them not to. So that's another reason you need this attention getting opening. So great insights today. Thank you. And there's also an AI prompt. And we're going to, at the end of this presentation, provide you with a downloadable handout where you can just copy and paste these prompts into your favorite AI or your company AI. But here's an example that you can say, hey, you're an expert at writing clear and engaging presentations. I'm writing a presentation on this. The goal of my presentation is this. My audience is this. And then you put in what you just wrote in your audience understanding matrix, and you say, what's a good way to kick off my presentation? I love using AI now. It gives you creative ideas quickly when you may not have a lot of time to think of them on your own. So just know that this is just an example of if we were writing this on working capital, you will get this at the end of the presentation to download and be able to copy and paste and use. The third part of the formula for presentation success is your executive summary. Now, I am so passionate about the executive summary. I say if you do nothing else in this whole formula, this is the most important step. And here's why. Because people come and they're like, what are you here for? You know, why? What are you here to tell me? Why is it important to me? And what do you want? They need to know a filter through which to listen to you. And there's three components of a good executive summary. One is, what's the purpose of your presentation? Is it to educate? Is it to update? Is it to propose a new product or program or project? Is it the value of a product or service? Is it something else? But then your audience knows, thank you for telling me what your purpose is. Here's an example. For working capital update, you would simply say, I'm here to update on working capital improvements. Simple. Then your audience knows what your purpose is. Second component, they're sitting there going, why do I care? Well, why? What is the technical, business, or global bottom line impact of your topic? Is it a cost savings? Is it market share increase? Is it time and efficiency savings? Maybe it's more people-oriented, like a culture change impact. Why does your audience want to listen? You say that right up front and you hook them to listen to you more. Here's an example for working capital. It's also, so you can either call this the why or your value proposition. And it is improve operational efficiency, increase stock price, or cultural change has started. You could say all three of those. That's why you want to listen to this presentation. And then your audience is like, oh my gosh, thank you. I care about all three of these things, so I'm going to listen. And if you have numbers or percentages, that's even better. Like if you can say it's going to increase the stock price by at least 10%, boy, are you going to have people who care about a stock price listening to you. Third component is what action do you want your audience to take? What action do you want your audience to take? Do you want them to make a decision? Maybe to get buy-in to go to the next step, or education to move forward to the next step. Perhaps it's asking for additional resources or input and feedback. It could be help in solving a problem or something else. But your audience wants to know, what do you want from me? You saw I started this presentation with an executive summary for today. I said what the purpose was, what the value proposition was, and what I hoped you were going to get out of the program today. Here's a full example of this, super easy. I'm here to update you on working capital improvements. It's going to improve operational efficiency and increase stock price. Cultural change has started. I need you to flow down the recommended communication message at the end of this presentation. Then your audience knows how to listen to you. And if your presentation gets cut short, you might be told, hey, you've got 30 minutes. Oh, sorry, you just have 5. I always go to this page. I go to this slide, because you could have a dialogue and get what you want just by showing this. So it's great to have this, and it helps you to write your presentation, because then you know the purpose and you know what you're asking for. So you can write the content around it. And if you can't have a slide on it, because maybe there's some strict requirement on slide numbers, say it. It's not that long to say this. So now I want you to think of that presentation you've been thinking about that you want to write in the future. And at least think about one component of the executive summary, which is your desired action. That's the want. That's the want. So on page 9, you're going to see a place for you to write the executive summary. If you don't have the workbook, that's okay. Just write it down anywhere. Jen just put the link to the workbook again in the chat. I want you to think about what's your desired action for the presentation that you're working on in this class. And go ahead and write that down. And if you have more time, then write the other components. Write the purpose. Write the benefit of the audience. But for sure, write that want. What do you want at the end of your presentation? Someone said earlier they are writing it for more funding. So ask for that funding. Maybe you want more resources. Maybe you need a decision. Maybe you just want their feedback. So put that down. And if you have more time, go ahead and write the purpose as well. So you want to go ahead and put that action, once you have it, into the chat. That action that you are asking for, put it into the chat. It really, really helps you to know how to write your presentation. And your audience then knows what you want from them. So anyone want to share their action, you can raise your virtual hand and Jen will call on you. If you want to just share your desired action. And if not, put it in the chat. So I just got a want here, offer to be extended to my client. That's what you want. Need decision-making based on options provided. Yeah, I need a decision on the best option. Now, maybe they also want you to recommend the option. I don't know, based on your research. Yeah, buy-in and decision to subscribe to our service. Love it. See how specific these are? And you know what? I don't consider asking for support specific enough because I don't know what you mean by that. My definition of support can be different than someone else's. So I love that you're getting super specific in your asks, in your wants. That's awesome. You can also put your executive summary that you've written into AI and say, hey, this is my presentation. This is my audience. Here's what I wrote for an executive summary. Tell me how I can improve this. AI might be able to help you get even more specificity or have some good ideas for improving it. And again, you're going to get this handout at the end, so you can just copy and paste into your favorite AI tool. Love that. You want a meeting. Jennifer wants a meeting to discuss their needs and goals and my ability to support them. Very clear ask. I'm asking for a meeting. So once you have that executive summary, you know your audience, you've gotten their attention, you've shared the executive summary. Hey, now you really, really want to keep your audience with you when you deliver a clear body message. So if a presentation is educational, is there an action we want from the audience besides feedback? Perhaps, right? You want them to implement and commit to using what you are sharing. That could be an action that maybe at the end you want them to commit to at least 3 key takeaways that they're going to go implement. That's an example of that. So what is an agenda and a clear body message? An agenda is your blueprint for your presentation. It's very simple. Now, it's a short, clear outline of the main points, and 70% of personality types need it to follow a presentation. And it goes up when you're in the military. 30% of personality types ignore it. So I always say, have one, because those who ignore it will ignore it, but those who need it will get it. And here's an example. It can be very simple. It can be, today I'm going to walk you through where we've been, where we are today, and where we're going. Very simple. It can be like today's agenda for this 1 hour. I said, I'm going to walk you through all of this in this 1 hour, and you're going to get real work done on your presentations. Once you have the agenda, then you can write a horse for each of the agenda items. And the reason I invented this was because I have sat in so many presentations and gotten lost over the years. I know I'm not alone out there because I'm like, where are they in this presentation? I don't know. So I came up with this acronym. I hope it helps you highlight the point. So you have an agenda item, maybe it's where we've been. You're going to highlight that point, and the hottest topic, you want to start there at the hottest topic and then go to, okay, so what? You start at the hottest topic because you could run out of time and you want to make sure you've at least presented that. Okay, so what? And then you want to present any relevant information or data to make the point. Then you want to summarize the point, which is optional because I only do this if it's a longer point. And then you want to ease to your next H or to your finish strong. So there's a question if we can share this deck. It's way too big to share, but the workbook that you can download has all of this information in it. So that's why we made a workbook for you to download and continue to use this. So you want a horse, highlight the point. Okay, so what? Relevant information. If it's a longer point, you want to summarize it, and then you want to ease to your next H or to your finish strong. Then you go to the next agenda item and you do the same thing. And you go to the next agenda item and you do the same thing. Once you're at that end, you're going to ease, right? You're going to ease to that finish strong. And I'm going to give you an example of this because I just saw what's an example of ease. I'll show you. Let's say this is your agenda, right? For the working capital status. I'm going to go over working capital status, metrics, and next actions. So then here I am highlighting the point and saying, okay, so what? Now, sometimes I actually like to put a banner at the end. This is the okay, so what? Because it reminds me. Okay, but notice you can read these fonts. Yes, there's also an image. You are the presentation, not your slides. So don't use 8-point font, please. We always say at least 21-point font is a good rule of thumb. And my team even tells me it should be 24. I cheat with 21. Working capital status, you go to the relevant information of this point. So then notice I'm bringing this information on in manageable chunks. That really helps my audience stay with me. Versus like super small print that no one can see. Then you kind of have that key takeaway. So this is the relevant information. This is an example of how you ease to the next point. You can gray out your agenda and just have the one that is in the font that you're going to. I love using this technique. It just helps me and my audience know where I'm at in the presentation. If you don't like that, you can simply say, now let's move on to metrics, because you already said the agenda. So then you might show a working capital metrics overview that's highlighting, hey, I'm going to walk you through these 4 areas of working capital metrics. And then you're going to blow up each one. And this again is highlighting the point and okay, so what? But then you can also bring on some relevant information, even on the same slide sometimes, right? You can just bring in some relevant information. Very clear. Then you're easing to the finish strong. Okay, let's talk about next actions. And I'll share the finish strong in a moment. But that was an example of a clear body message, using the horse, using the agenda. And what I love about the workbook is you have a formula for presentation success worksheet in your workbook on page 10. And I want you to think of 3 main points that you want to make on your agenda for your presentation. So you can go to page 10 and think of 3 main points you want to make on your agenda for your presentation and jot them down. You won't be able to think through the horse today because we have limited time, but at least think through that presentation you want to give in the future. What's the best way to tell your story? That's really that agenda, those key points that you need to make in your presentation. So go ahead and think about that and put down a few points you want to make. And if you don't, and are not somewhere where you can do that, you can always do it later. Or you can just be thinking about it. And when you get to a place where you can write, then write it then or type it in because it's a digital workbook. And once you have those, you can put it in the chat. You can say, I'm going to talk about these 3 main things. It might be, I'm going to talk about our options, my recommendation, and then we're going to facilitate a dialogue on making a decision. So anyone want to share their agenda or any key insights or observations from doing this activity? Feel free to raise your virtual hand and Jen will call on you and you can unmute yourself. Or you can put it in the chat. But this is from the activity of really thinking through the best way of communicating your presentation. That's to achieve that executive summary. It's to achieve the executive summary that you wrote. So really kind of think that through. And if anyone wants to share, please do, because everyone learns from you sharing as well. And if you're still thinking, that's okay too. The key is that you have these tools to come back to in writing any presentation that you need to give. In fact, this digital workbook, you can simply clear the page and use it again. So that's why we gave it to you in that format. All right, fabulous. So now we're going to finish strong. That's really the last part of the formula for presentation success. You want to finish strong, just like you started strong. Okay, so that's key, that you also leave with a finish strong. You want to tell them what you told them and have it be memorable. So here's some examples. You can say, in summary, or a quotation or an image. You could do a bookend, like how you started a presentation and how you ended a presentation, which is actually my favorite. I'm going to give an example of it. And then you could also do a challenge or a call to action. So I want you to be thinking about that presentation that you're going to need to give in the future, and how could you end it? So here's an example of in summary. This is of the working capital that I've been using as an example. You could summarize, hey, I need you to complete 2024 commitments, drive inventory accountability, enhance 2025 financial accountability, and flow down the recommended communication message. We're changing the culture every day. See what I mean? This is very just summarize. And then they remember the key points you want them to remember. Quotation could be, remember today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. You could leave them with an impactful quote. You could do a bookend. So what do I mean by that? How you start and how you end a presentation can be similar. So if you remember when we started the working capital presentation, we said, look, we have 4 million target in 2025. And I want you to see our cash flow estimates over the years here. And I want you to pay particular attention to 2026. I mean, this gets their attention. If you had actual dollars in there, they would be very, very happy. And it's a great way to leave. And they're going to say, yeah, I will. I'll answer that question just in a moment, Rosalind. So images. This is an example of a bookend with images. So remember, I started with, I want funding for Samaritan's Feet, Manny Own Home. And he showed an empty classroom in the beginning as an attention getting opening and a number of other images. So now you could say, by investing in Samaritan's Feet, We can transform the empty classroom to full classrooms and truly inspire the next generation of STEM leaders. See, then they want to give you funding at the end of that. So that's an example of bookending with images. And then you could ask a challenge. You could show a picture. You could say, okay, are we just spectators or are we actually participants? You could do a call to action. Now, I like to do my finish strong and then do Q&A. However, there's no hard and fast rule. You could do Q&A and then come back and finish strong. It's just by the time you're doing Q&A, it kind of loses its impact. So I like to do Q&A after my finish strong. Is it okay to use a different intro and closing? Absolutely. You can use a statistic and a quote. You don't have to bookend. That's just one example. Think about your audience. Remember, know your audience is your number one thing. So think about your audience and your executive summary, the purpose and your action. What's the best way to get that? And then use that. So you can absolutely use different ways. Now, I want you to think about that presentation that you're developing. What's the best way for you to finish strong? And you want to go to that page 10. There's a space on the bottom. Is it to do a summary, a quotation, an image, maybe a bookend, a challenge, a call to action? Maybe a mixture of those is okay too, right? You might do a statistic and then end with a question. Totally okay, but you got to be thinking about what is the best way for me to get my audience's attention and finish strong. And then I'm going to achieve my executive summary, which is the key. You want to get to yes in your presentation. So be thinking about what's the best way for you to finish strong, and go ahead and you can put that in the chat if you need to. I promise we will be done in the time frame here today. I'm just trying to give you a little think time. Just to your initial ideas of how you would finish strong. And I'd love to see what you chose. So we're going to launch another poll real quick. Are you thinking about in summary, quotation, image, bookends, challenge? One person said quote in the chat. A couple people said statistic and closing quote. So statistic in the intro, quote as a close. But if you're able to participate in the poll, you can choose what you chose. And again, there's no hard or fast rule. This is where it's the art of creating a presentation. And I want you to have fun with it. You want to have fun with creating your presentation. What's the best way to end yours to get to yes in what you're asking for? All right. Start with a question, end with a challenge. I love it. I would offer a free starter guide. I love that too. Okay. Let's take a look, Jen, at the results of this poll. Challenge.
Okay. Here you go.
Yeah, thank you. So 34% saying summary, 17% quote, 9% image, 11% bookends, 29% challenge. I like seeing the variety, and it's very nice that you think about that best way and having some variety. And I appreciate everyone sharing what they're thinking about in the chat. It really helps others to get ideas as well. Now, you can also, the same way you used AI for the attention getting opening, you can say, I'm writing a presentation with this goal. My audience is this. I started with this. What's a good way to end? And again, we're going to put into the chat very shortly where you can download that handout that you can just copy and paste these prompts into your favorite AI. So at this point, we have shared here the formula for presentation success. And when you follow this, you know your audience, you get their attention, you are clear on your executive summary, your agenda, your clear body message, and you're finished strong, you become the presentation, not your slides, not your content, but you. And you can start presenting super confidently. And that is the key. So I would love to hear how you learned about this session, and then I'm going to share some key takeaways that you can download. So definitely, let's launch that poll, Jen. How did you hear about this session? Was it the UCLA advertisement, another UCLA course? Was it a LinkedIn post? Was it IAWA? We have friends from IAWA out there today, or other. So if you don't mind answering that poll, that helps us know what we're doing to get the word out on these. And yeah, thank you. So one person said the UCLA OpenX email. So thank you for that, because it really helps us to see what's working, and really appreciate that. Please continue as you're answering that poll to use the presentation, the formula for presentation success worksheet to draft your presentations. You have it in the workbook. That workbook's going to be on Canva. And I want to challenge you. Thank you, IAWA from France. That's awesome. Complete your presentation that we started working on today, because it's fresh in your mind. And you could even record yourself doing the presentation and then review it using a self-evaluation in your workbook. So that's on page 13 that you want to do that, because the best way to improve in presentations is recording yourself, watching it back, and getting honest feedback. There's a self-evaluation. Count the number of filler words. What's your body language like? Maybe get someone else to review it. Great. And do you want to publish the poll results, Jen?
Sure.
And thank you for putting it in the chat also, because we know not everyone can participate in the poll right now. So the majority of people heard about this from 59% UCLA advertisement. Thank you so, so much. And then 26% other, which I'd love to hear about too. And then IAWA was 5%. Course 7%, and LinkedIn 3%. Thank you so much. That's helpful for us. Very, very helpful for us to see where what we're doing is working. And so please know, I would love it if you continue to follow me on LinkedIn and our community of practice that you can join on LinkedIn. And those links are in your workbook, but Jen also just posted them in the chat. And download those AI prompts. So she just posted the link in the chat that you can download those prompts. And if you want to go deeper, go check out my book and let me know what you think. I love staying in touch with you on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. Let me know how this is working for you. I have so appreciated your participation. I wish we had even more time together. So definitely, there's a question about, it was a free course. How can I get access to the recording? Nicole, would you want to say anything in closing and how they get access to the recording?
Yes, you can go to the Canvas website and it will be available under the video tab on the left side. And if you have any questions, just feel free to email me.
Great. So that's Nicole Lim with UCLA. We love working with you, Nicole. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you everyone for your participation. You've been great. And I hope you got some real work done today.